There, just a warning, I might sound a little cynical here at first, but please stay with me because my attitude improves. Yesterday, I commented on a friend of mine's Facebook post. He was commenting about how big churches should help little churches, rich churches should help poor churches. And I commented on his post there on Facebook that what I've seen a lot lately, instead of helping each other out, I see more competition. I've seen churches that are trying to have the most coolest online show, worship service. I've seen church plants that want to distance themselves from the older churches in the area because they want to be the hippest, coolest, most with it church. And in order to do that, they have to distance themselves from the more traditional churches. A few years ago, I was in a city visiting, and I went to a new church plant. And as a matter of fact, the weather was bad that day. There was snow and ice. And so some of the other area churches canceled their services for that day because they wanted to protect their members. They didn't want them getting out on the ice and getting hurt. Well, while I was at this church plant that was open that day and was having church services, all I heard from the praise team and other people over and over was, other churches are closed today, but look at us. We're still open. Look at us. Wow. You know, it just bothered me. You know, I was seeing more competition instead of cooperation. Now, after I left that comment on my friend's Facebook, I started thinking, well, William, maybe you're just too cynical. And so I actually reached out to a couple of other pastor friends of mine in different areas and shared with them what I said and asked them, am I being cynical? And they said, absolutely not. What you were observing, what you were sharing is reality. And so that concerns me, that we have more competition instead of cooperation sometimes. Not always. Stay with me. We're getting there. Sometimes we see more ambition instead of submission. You know, for example, I remember back when I was a kid, Johnny Carson was the host of the Tonight Show. And sometimes he would be on vacation or whatever, and he would have a guest host come while he was gone. And I've noticed in recent years, these talk show hosts, now when they're gone, instead of having a guest host, they just show reruns. And that's telling me that they're a little insecure. Johnny Carson was secure. He didn't mind having guest hosts. But today, not only on late night TV, but also in the church, I'm sensing more insecurity, more competition instead of cooperation, more ambition instead of submission. And just this morning I was reading in James chapter 3, verse 16. It says, for where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. All right, so this ambition is not good. This competition instead of cooperation is not good. And I even had a pastor from another area share with me that he sees competition even within his own pastoral staff. And again, these things should not be. And I've seen it in certain places too. Fortunately, I'm not experiencing it right now, and I praise God for that. But in James chapter 4 now, going to verse 6, the middle of verse 6, it says, God resisteth the proud, but gives grace unto the humble. Submit yourselves. And there again we see submission, not ambition, submission. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. And to me, that is the cure for what we saw here in chapter 3 of James, verse 16. For where envy and strife is, there's confusion and every evil work. All right, the solution for that is God resisteth the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. You know, while I was thinking about having that cooperation instead of competition and submission instead of ambition, it reminded me when I was starting out as a UPS driver about 21 years ago. It was the most stressful delivery job I had ever had. Delivering for UPS is like no other delivery job I'd ever had. And I was really struggling. And there was this lady, UPS driver, who had a route right next to my route. And ironically, I knew her from a place I'd worked before. She would deliver to that place. And we had already kind of become friends. Well, now I was driving the route next to her route. And she would call me late in the day and ask me how I was doing. Was I still struggling? And she would even have me meet her. And if I was running late, she would take packages off my car onto her car so that she could help me out. And I remember one time, totally amazed me, we met each other. She called me up, asked how I was doing. I told her I was struggling. She said, well, meet me at this place at this time, and I did. She took about an hour's worth of work off my truck, put it onto her truck. Not only that, she took the dyad board, and the dyad board scans, of course, the deliveries that you're doing and gives you credit for the deliveries you've made. Well, she took my dyad board and scanned the packages that she was going to be delivering for me so that I would still get credit for it. And so here she was doing an hour's worth of work for no credit, just to help somebody out. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, well, that wasn't really ethical. Well, what Rahab did with the spies wasn't necessarily ethical, but her heart was in the right place. So my friend's heart here was in the right place. She was helping me. She was encouraging me. She was cooperating instead of competing. She was submitting instead of being ambitious for herself. And we see this other places as well. Ben Franklin invented the lightning rod. And he never had that patented. He simply said, that is my gift to the world. Again, cooperation instead of competition. Submission instead of personal ambition. And even Thomas Jefferson invented a lot of farming equipment that he never had patented because he believed in the free exchange of ideas. He didn't believe these things should be patented. He just believed in the free exchange of ideas. And so again, we see that cooperation instead of competition. Submission instead of personal ambition. And friends, I do see that in the church. I absolutely do. I remember when I was working as a Bible worker in Texas, I was paid by the local churches. The Texas conference wasn't paying my salary or anything, but they cooperated with me. And I remember one time I got a card in the mail from the Texas conference telling me that every day in their executive meetings that they pray for certain pastors. And they wanted me to know that on this certain day, they were going to be praying for me. Now, I was not a conference pastor. But they still, as a conference, were praying for me on that day. Me especially on that day. And so that really did my heart a lot of good to see that instead of competition, there was cooperation. Instead of personal ambition, there was submission. And I've experienced that many times here in the Florida conference with different pastors that give their time to help me out. During the pandemic, the regional, the leader of the pastors in our region was calling the pastors during the pandemic to see how they were doing. I was taking care of and am taking care of a small church here in the area that the conference is not paying me for. I'm not technically a conference pastor. But this ministerial secretary from the conference called me to see how I was doing. Not because it was his job to do that, but simply because he cared. And again, I saw cooperation instead of competition. Submission instead of personal ambition. And so those things really encourage me. And so I just pray that as in this new year to come, that we make it a theme to have submission over ambition. And that we will continue to help each other out in the year to come. God bless you.